Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Carlton People. On this episode, I've got a man by the name Vince. We crossed paths just recently. Well, actually, we've crossed paths a while back without knowing online, but we've actually had a conversation now, and I thought it was a perfect time to get him on for an episode. Vince, welcome, mate. How you doing?
Good, mate, yourself?
Yeah, I'm good. We're just talking off air about at the time of recording this, we've had the bye. So there's a little bit of a reset, and we realise that we miss the club and miss watching them play, even though they disappoint us at this stage. But I'm going well.
Yeah, it's good. Yeah, look, well, like I said to you, I would rather watch us play, but to not have that loss, well, we think it would have been a loss. So, yeah, we get to reset for next week or this week as it is. So, who knows what will happen from there? But yeah, we'll wait and see.
We'll
We
wait and
live in
see.
hope.
We do. That's the story of our lives. We're going to take this chat more to a high level. So what I want to do is I want to start, as we always start with the series, and just kind of get your story. Like, how did it all begin for you? Where did you fall into the Carlton family, and how did it begin?
Well, probably the day that I was born. Actually, I obviously don't remember that, but I had an uncle of mine that apparently when I was born, which was in 1980, he brought me a little Carlton. It was either a teddy bear or a doll or something like that. Uh, and ever since then, basically, we've been Carlton through and through. So both parents are Carlton. Um, uh, my mother's side is probably split Carlton Essendon. My father's side's probably the same, Carlton Essendon, and there's probably about 14 of them altogether, 8 on my dad's side, 6 on my mum's side. So it's sort of split in the middle. But we, thank God, fell on the side of Carlton and not Essendon. Um, and yeah, I've been a supporter basically since first memories. I can remember the '87 grand final when we lived in Warrnambool, and I was only 7. I think I was 7 years old, just turned 7 years old. So I remember vividly watching that. But yeah, just it's pretty much been Carlton my whole life. I don't
Yeah.
remember anything other than from earliest memories was always being a Carlton supporter. So I know a lot of people say, when I was 6 or 8, I started watching football and decided no, it was just indoctrinated in me. There was no way known I was going to be anything other than Carlton.
Yeah, love that. Love that. Speak with the passion there. So, 87 grand final, is that your first memory of watching a game or going to a game that you can remember?
No, we were living then in Warrnambool,
Yeah.
which if people don't know, it's about 3 hours from here. We were there for a few years. So when Carlton made the 86 and 87, I believe we were in Warrnambool. But I do remember a few games from '87. So the Kernahan kick after the siren against North Melbourne. I remember listening to that with my dad outside. So there was a period there where we didn't go to many games, obviously because we were living 3 hours away. But that's probably my earliest memory is that about 87. I mean, I remember things back even, I don't know how far back it goes, but Tony Lockett destroyed us one day at I think it was Princess Park, or it could have been at so I can't even remember St Kilda's home ground name now, but we tended to always lose to the bottom teams, and
Mm.
St Kilda being down the bottom always that's a memory that always sticks with me. So just little things like that. But yeah, since mid '80s, I remember following Carlton. It's always been, win, 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 win for most of my young life.
Well, so I'm told. So I'm told there was a time in this existence in this universe where Carlton were had their standards and winning was everything, and maybe we'll touch on that shortly. But who were? I mean, whenever I speak to people who have lived through, the golden era as they call it, and I say, who's your favorite player? There's just so many names. It just seems like the starting 22 were, full of champions. But who were, one or two or some of the players that you really personally gravitated to? Because I think everyone's got a different. I think everyone appreciates the legends, but everyone also has a different style of football that they enjoy. So, who are your favorites?
Kernahan,
Yeah.
just from he probably started, I think, 85, 86, I think it was. I can't really remember how far. It could have even been earlier. But from my earliest memories, any time you needed somebody to do something, it was Kernahan. Like, you kick a goal, Kernahan. Take a mark, Kernahan. Rev up the team, Kernahan. So from 87, I think he became captain. It was just, he was it. He's just a legend. Like people throw around the word legend a fair bit,
Mm.
especially today. No, if you were around when Kernahan was around at his peak, the guy was just, he was just incredible. Like what you want a captain to do, he did it. You needed that one goal to say, come on, this is it. We can get there. He just, like clockwork, almost every single game he did the same thing. And you'd be like, how good is this guy? So he was probably number one. And probably a little bit later on, probably Greg Williams was probably the next one. But I mean, Koutafidis, Craig Bradley, Brett Radden, Wayne Johnston, probably a little bit earlier. Um, God, you could of all those favourite players, you could put them in a team now. They'd probably still win games now. They were just so good. They
Mm.
were just so good.
I get this notion of Carlton, and this might just lead into where we are at the moment. So, like the former greats, all these premiership players, they weren't, and maybe this is just because the game has changed, but they weren't the way I observe it. They weren't like super athletes, but they were super strong-willed, blue-collar workers, and I feel like maybe it's just the modern game and the way it is, but I feel like the way we are now, we don't have that too many of those players now, where we're more focused on getting those athletes who have those wow factor skills. Is that
It's
something that you
Yeah,
know?
it's funny you mention that because I think today in the game, and I'm only going to speak on behalf of Carlton. I'm not going to talk about any other team. I think Walsh does that.
Mm,
Walsh is not the most polished, but he wills himself to every contest, and he'll get that ball out, and you'll think, how the hell did he get that out? Like from the bottom of a pack, he'll get his foot to it. I think before him, maybe Kate Simpson was one of those where he wasn't a classy um, he wasn't a classy player. Like he didn't have all the skills of say a Bryce Gibbs or Mark Murphy at his best, but he just got to every contest. He'd jump into a pack and you'd see that fist go up and it was him. Or he'd get the ball at the back and he'd kick it to somebody else. He was always there. And I think Walsh is like that. I don't think there are many players in the whole of the competition that are like that. I think Stocker looks a little bit like that as well. I think he reminds me of a traditional footballer, but and maybe even Cripps a little bit. A little bit Cripps is like that, but I think most players today are athletes. I
mm,
don't know if football is their. I don't know if football. I don't know if football is their. I think when they get recruited, they look at them and go, well, these guys can run, you know, the 2K trial is just perfect. They tend to, well, in Carlton's case, tend to bypass skills, which really frustrates me. So yeah, I think if you're talking about pure footballers, I think Walsh is a pure footballer. Doesn't
mm.
have all the skills, but he's just got that willingness to get to every contest is just ridiculous. Hence
Yeah,
why he's our best player at the moment.
yeah. No, I'm totally with you. I don't really remember Rats, but
Yeah, he was
from
like
what
that.
I've watched, I kind of feel like Stocker's got Rat and vibes, and the reason why I say that is just because like he's starting in the back line. I know Rats did as well, and he's just I don't know. There's a bit of an in and under grunt to him. It's just an observation, and I don't know. Maybe the the will and all of that will come when their bodies fill out a little bit more. But I think I really do believe that there's one of those things that you can't teach will and desire and that will to sort of leave it all out there on the field. I don't know. Maybe you can coach it. What do you think about that?
No, 100%. And that's why I think from the moment I saw Stock, I remember we were right behind the goals. I can't remember exactly who we played. It could have been his first game. And he wasn't particularly clean. He wasn't getting much of the ball, but you could see he had, and I'm not going to put the word on here, but you could see he had something about him that I thought, this guy's got something. You can just see it. Like you see other guys, Cottrell's a little bit the same. It's just that no, I'm not even going to go there with Cottrell, but Stocker's got something about him. You
Yep.
can just see it. He's got the class. He's got the tenacity at the football. You can see he doesn't really get excited when he does things like some of the players do about themselves. He's just all about let's just get on to the next contest and go from there.
Mm,
So I really like Stocker. I'm
yep.
hoping. I'm hoping that these rumors that people are talking about are not true,
They're
because I
rubbish.
don't think he's the
We
kind
can,
of guy that will ever. I don't want a guy like that to never leave this club.
yeah, we can
Ever.
rubbish them right now. He's
Good.
come out and he's squashed them.
Oh, he has he?
He
Good.
has. So that's great. But on a high level, you've seen the 80s, you've seen the 90s, you've now seen this transition into the modern game and really modern strategy when it comes to going to the draft. And obviously that's not something that we as a club have done traditionally because the landscape of the competition was that once upon a time you could just buy your way through and then spend the money, whereas it's a little different now. So um, and I think there's this tug of war of we've got to get back to our roots and we can't lose our identity, but at the same time we have to adapt to the modern era and the modern way of doing things on field and off field. So what's your observation of where the club's at, as a whole?
I like when Paul comes onto your show, and I'm not even sure if Pommy may say the same thing, that we seem to be more focused on external issues, and there's nothing wrong with that. I've got nothing wrong with anything that Carlton Football Club wants to do. But in saying that, I think sometimes we focus from the outside, and I did make a tweet about it when Carlton, I think it was last week or the week before, announced that major sponsor, and we had Doherty and Cripps there, and it's great. Like this is for the future of our club. It's fantastic. Um, but we're losing supporters. We're losing young kids. So sponsors are fine. Off-field duties are fine, but where we seem to be neglecting the most important thing, which is on-field. That's how it looks to me, and I don't think they are. I'm sure they're not. Like I'm sure they're working, 24 hours a day to fix everything up. But we don't see it on the field. We're seeing everything off-field. We're hearing them talk about these things, but in terms of on-field, we just don't see it. We see glimpses of it, and glimpses of it is not good enough anymore. In terms of, you mentioned before, do we need to go back to the old style? Um, maybe we need a little bit of that arrogance back. I think we've lost a little bit of that. I think we're too friendly. I think we're too nice. I don't think anyone really fears us anymore, and that's our doing because we're not winning. But you come out in a preseason and I don't know if they actually said we are making finals or we plan to make finals, but that's basically what they said without even saying it. And we're 4-8. So were we in any position to say anything like that? Did we have the right to say anything like that after last year? Were we that good last year? I know we lost a few games by a kick, but we also won a few games by a kick. So realistically, were we there or are we there yet? I don't know. I haven't seen anything yet to say we should be here. But then again, that's showing a bit of arrogance, which, I just said before, we need to show that, so we are. But I mean, we've got to show arrogance in the right places, and arrogance needs to be shown on the field, not off the field. And how many times you say it? You can say that we're going to make finals every year, and all we are is the laughing stock of the competition because we're not close to it yet.
Mm.
Until they believe it, we're not close to it. And that's what needs to change. So that's where I think the arrogance has to come from. We need to believe that we can do that on the field. Until we see that, I don't believe a word that they say.
Yeah. No,
Sad to
that's
say.
no, that's fair enough, and that's kind of where we're at. And I think often the lines get blurred when supporters have that sentiment that you've just said, and it's like, no, well, sometimes like the honest truth is there, and I mean, we get angry, we get disappointed, we get frustrated with bad losses and fade outs and playing two and a half or three quarters, and the reality is like we're not going to go anywhere. We're always going to show up, and I think that might be something in that too, like. The supporters always do their bit, always, no matter what. I mean, we've sat through so many rebuilds, draft picks come and go,
But
poor
that was what was
decisions.
so good about the start of the rebuild. They
Mm,
were honest with us. They said,
yeah,
"This is what we have. This is what we need. We're going to the draft to do this." That's great. So where's the honesty now?
mm,
That's what I want to know. Where's the honesty now? They're telling us we appear ready to play finals. Yet I remember at the start of the year they had all the captains from each club put who they thought was going to make the eight, and I believe it was only one. one captain from one team said that he saw Carlton making the 8. So minus our captains, that's 16 other teams that thought we're not good enough to make the 8. So do we think too highly of ourselves? Is that the issue? I don't know. Do we believe too much of what the media says? Are we reading too much into that? Not us as supporters. I'm talking about the club as a whole. Are they reading too much into that? I don't know.
It's almost like the chicken and the egg, because to make the finals, you've got to believe you can make the finals. To believe you make the finals, you've got to sort of put it in and manifest that you believe it. It's kind of like, what comes first? The belief that you're going to make finals or can make finals, or just the work for you to make finals? Because you can work hard, but if you don't really believe you can make finals, is that it's such an interesting topic.
Well, some believe. I mean, I think McKay believes, or he believes in himself. I think Walsh does. I think even Stocker does as well. You
Mm.
can see that. Do the others? I'm yet to see it. I don't. I can't. I'm not going to sit here and say, our list is ready. We're an inch away from making that next step, because I'd like to believe that they are, and I can see it sometimes in games. I mean, to get almost 5 goals up against the Doggies on their home ground was that was awesome. And then to see how we lost it,
Mm.
30 minutes later, up by 5 goals and lose by 3. So the difference with Carlton being at their absolute best and their absolute worst needs to be bridged before anybody can even say we're even a remote chance to make close to the top 8.
Mm.
We need to bridge that gap. So I'm
Mm.
hoping this review that they do unearth something. Something needs to be there. I feel like there's something rotten within the core of our club, and somebody from the outside needs to come in and say this is what it is.
Mm.
I'm hoping that happens. I don't know how long it's going to take. If it takes the next 2 weeks to a month, 2 months. If it's not, maybe it's next year. But we need something as supporters, because it's gone a little bit too far now, where performances that we're putting in they're no good.
Mm. I interviewed Kuda, I think it was at the start of this year, and I asked him about the question of, do you think that, the salary cap era, are we still feeling the effects of that? And he shut it down straight away. He said it's a cop out. And he made the notion of, Terry, we've had how many number one draft picks, we've had how many years have gone by, and all these great talented players have come through. You can't be using the salary cap era as a cop out. And I think I probably did before that, because I'm trying to, obviously we're all trying to latch onto something that we can say is the reason. Where do you sit with that? Hearing that, what Kuda was obviously there, right there, and he speaks with accountability. So what's your best guess as to what it is? Because something isn't there. I don't know what it is, but what's your best guess?
I don't know if it's the people behind the scenes pulling the strings. I don't know if it's the fact that when Koutafidis was there, and I've heard him in subsequent interviews say that somebody like John Elliott was really strong behind the scenes, and they demanded nothing but success. So, you walk through the doors at Princess Park, and you demand that. It's demanded of you that that's what you give. Um, are we getting that now? I don't see it. I see, and it filters down even to the supporters. There's a lot of supporters that were just happy being mediocre. We got close enough. That's okay. We'll get better next time. We got close enough. The Carlton, and I know it's not the Carlton of old, and I get told that by many people. We need to move with the times. In certain things, you need to, but in terms of attitude, we never accepted close enough being good enough. We used to go to Princess Park almost every week when we played, and we expected, as supporters, wins every week. We don't expect that now. We expect that we're going to get close enough. So Kuda's right. There's no excuse anymore. That salary cap drama happened almost 20 years ago now.
More.
If we haven't gotten out of that, why? What's wrong? This is why I'm happy for this review to happen. I want to know exactly what the hell is wrong within the core of this club. There's something rotten there, because we've got really talented players, really talented. You can see in glimpses of games, you go, man, this team, if they click for 4 quarters, watch out. Like really watch out. And you'll see it for maybe 2.5 quarters. And it's that quarter and a half to 2 quarters that you don't see it, where we just drop the bundle completely. It's almost like watching witches' hats. And you're like, why? What are they? What belief don't they have? Is it in themselves? Is it something that's taught to them? Is it something even deeper than that? I don't know. I
Mm.
don't know. I wish I did. I really feel like if they can figure that one thing out, and Richmond were like that for God, near on 35 years,
Mm.
36 years, just always thereabouts, always thereabouts. You think this is the year, this is the year, and they'd always finish ninth, just never good enough. And something clicked. Was it the external review that they had? Was that what changed them? I don't know.
Mm.
But they changed. And look at them now, 3 premierships in 4 years. Well, I don't think we're far away. We just need somebody from the outside to have a look and say, this is what's wrong.
Mm.
Change this and you should be okay. Work on that. What it is, I don't know. I'm outside those four walls. I can't see. I could speculate. We could sit here for another 10 hours. We could speculate on any little thing. Is it the coach? Is it the assistant coaches? Is it the players' attitudes? Are the players running the club? Is it at board level? Is it beyond board level with the power brokers? Um, you know, what is it? How the hell do we know?
Mm.
We don't know.
We're just the supporters that it's so funny. We attach it. I mean, life, the lessons of life often tell you that you sort of should only focus on what you can control and whatnot. And it's so funny because I think for the most part, I genuinely like to do that. But there's something about this team, this club, watching them, like it's completely out of our control. 100%, but we latch onto it. It's like
We do every week. We
it's like
we
a family
think,
or a
and
relationship.
this is just our positivity in us. We think every week, okay, we'll be better next week. You get that, you play on a Saturday or a Sunday, and for the next day or two, you're really upset. It's like this team is just pathetic. They are the worst. They need to drop all these players. And then you get to about Wednesday, Thursday, and you think, no, you start making excuses. No, geez, if we'd done this differently, if we'd kicked that goal at this time, if they'd paid that free kick, no, we'll be okay this week. And then the weekend comes up. We've deluded ourselves enough that we think, no, everything's going to be okay. Rinse and repeat the same thing. And you're like, man, we do it. And we do it to ourselves every week because we're so passionate and we want it to get better. And we keep thinking every week, this is going to change. This is going to change. We're going to get there. We're 1 week away. And maybe we are 1 week away. But is that week next week? Or is it 2022? Or is it 2023? When is it? Is it with this list? Is it with this coach? Is it with these assistant coaches? I don't know.
Mm.
I don't know. I can't. I wish I could answer. If we could all answer that, then we'd be top of the ladder. We'd be, vying for premierships. But I don't know.
Yeah.
We keep hearing the same spiel every time they jump on the radio. Wiedering will jump on SEN, and Doherty's on Sport 927, and they were always saying the same thing. We're working hard. We know where our deficiencies are. We need to do this, but I've got no doubt that they are. But that either says to me it's something that the coaches aren't teaching them properly, or it's something ingrained.
Mm.
It's very frustrating.
Yeah, let's go back again. So, what's one of the? I mean, you've seen some great games and some premierships and whatnot. What's one particular day in your memory that really sticks out to you, whether it's a grand final or whatever?
Now, this has got a backstory to it. So,
Okay.
in 1999, I think you know where I'm going to go with this.
Oh yeah.
The week of the game, the preliminary final, my brother and I were lining up in Moonee Ponds to go and get tickets for the game. And the line was there's a little shopping centre there in Moonee Ponds. The line was probably about, I'd estimate, at least 200 people long. And I would say, from memory, my brother and I were the only Carlton supporters in there. This was on early in the week, maybe a Monday or a Tuesday. So we lined up. Essendon supporters were singing the club song to us. They were also pointing out spots on the side of the shopping centre where we're going to put our seats right there on Saturday night because we need tickets for the grand final. And my brother gets very worked up about things like that, and he was getting upset. So I calmed him down and I said, look, you don't know what's going to happen. You just don't know. Anyway, we got 2 tickets. Turns out I couldn't go that game. I found out that I had to work. And I said to my brother, on the off chance we win, because we were just so far from being favourites, it was ridiculous. I said, in the off chance that we win, I'll go to the grand final. I said, but we're not going to win, so enjoy the game, have fun. He took one of his best mates with him then. Uh, on the way to pick him up with my father, I'll never ever forget this game. We're listening to it on the radio, and we were just like, really tense, and it was just, backwards, forwards, backwards, forwards. We won the game, and me and my father were just screaming in the car, driving towards the city, and Essendon supporters just with their heads in their hands, crying. And my brother jumped in the car just screaming. He goes, Vince, it was just the most amazing game I've ever been to. And I said, I know, we listened to it. We were up at half time, and they came back and naturally got in front because they were the better team. And then somehow we came back, and I said, it's a miracle. I couldn't believe it. And in hindsight, it was probably the beginning of the end for Carlton. It was probably our high watermark. Up to that point, we got to the grand final the next week and ended up losing. And maybe 2000, 2001, I thought we were a pretty good team, but after that, we were never the same. But that's the game there that I always remember. It was just, we had no right to even get close to that team, like no right whatsoever. And I loathe Essendon, but they were clearly the best team that year. And somehow Silvani said something at 3/4 time, according to legend. You can't remember what it is. And we got up and won. It was just, hugging people on the streets, and in saying that, I went to the 95 grand final, and the 95 grand final was just amazing. But we'd won it by half time. So it was celebrations in the crowd at half time, and we went down Lygon Street, and people were just jumping on the rooftops of cars and hoods of cars, and it was just, you thought, how good's this? This is going to go on. We'll win another flag, and we'll be okay. And 26 years later, we've never really gotten close.
No.
Just so disappointing.
I feel, again, I have not seen the success properly. I feel like my theory is the reason why we keep coming back and giving ourselves those, those reasons why we're going to turn it around when it comes to, Wednesday, Thursday. I feel like it's connected to the fact that there are miracles like that. There are teams you watch every year that win the granny and turn it around. And I think that my theory is that's where the hope comes from. And with that comes disappointment when they keep disappointing you. But I don't
think... Are the players thinking that too? Like, is that part of the issue where they think it's just going to happen? So eventually somebody will stand up, somebody will do something. Maybe they're not doing it as a team. Maybe they don't believe enough as a team. Maybe they just think, well, Richmond, the last game of 2015, I think it was, or 2016, lost by 100 odd points. They weren't all that good at the start of the year that they won their first flag, and then just it all clicked. I remember they lost all their tall forwards, only had small forwards, had a makeshift forward line and turned it on from there. Do we think something like that's going to happen with us? Because it doesn't just happen. Players need to believe in it. They need to buy in. But is it them, or is it the coach? Or is it a bit of both? Or the coaches? I don't know. Like I said, we could go in circles around and around and around 1,000 times trying to figure it out. And, you'll have an opinion, and, there's 80 odd thousand Carlton supporters that have probably got, 50 different opinions. Who knows? Who knows?
True. I've got a couple of questions before I let you go and wrap it up. The first one is centered around, I usually ask if you could bring another player from another club, but for whatever reason, I just want to ask if you could bring another Carlton player from any time in history and put him into this team, who would you bring back? Someone that would match what we have in this group at the moment.
Look, I'd love to say Stephen Kernahan, but I think McKay does his job pretty well.
Yep.
But for that leadership, I can't go past him.
Yeah.
It's just,
he was that much of a force, was he?
You really need to see there was one game in 93 where he kicked it out on the full against Essendon, and he was just devastated. The next week he had a similar kick, but he was directly in front at Princess Park, and he kicked it against Hawthorn, I think it was, and he got us in front. It was similar time of the game, similar circumstances. This time he didn't miss. That's how good this guy was. When the time was there that somebody needed to do something, I'd say 95% of the time, 98% of the time, he'd put his hand up and say, "Leave it with me, guys. Leave it with me." And he did it every week, almost every week. It was just ridiculous to see.
Mm.
There's a reason why he's a legend of the club. I urge anybody that's watching this that hasn't watched enough Kernahan, just go back and see some of the things that he did. And he may not have gotten, 15 marks a game and kicked 10 goals. Sometimes he might have only kicked 2 goals a game and 5 marks. But he took that 1 mark and kicked that 1 goal right when we needed it. It was like, this is when you need a captain's goal. And every time somebody would say it, Kernahan would pop up, he'd take a mark, and he'd kick, and you go, oh, how good's this guy? He's just ridiculous. So I'd have him.
Okay, love it. And my final question is, this is going to be an interesting one because it seems to get longer and longer and further away. I ask everyone, like, based on what you've seen, the current trajectory, whatever it is, which year is it going to be? When are we lifting up this cup?
Uh, if I look at how long it took Geelong and Richmond with Hardwick and Thompson there, I think they were 7, 8, 9 years. I think it took them. So if we do that, we started in 2016, 17, 18, 19, 20, 22, probably 23, 24.
Love
I'm
it.
being realistic. I mean, Dustin Martin really didn't start becoming the player that he was until round one, the year that they won the premiership, was against us, and I was there to witness it. I just said, man, we always kill this guy. Well, not always kill him, but we seem to contain Dustin Martin pretty well, and he destroyed us. And that was it. It was like, no, this team knows what they want to do. I think then 2023, I think if we get this review right from now until the end of the year, I think it could hold us in good stead for 2022. I would say getting a few key players back, we should be okay for finals next year, just verging. And I'd say 2023, 2024, if the necessary players step up like they should, Setterfield and Stocker gets his natural improvement and players like that, I think we'll be okay.
Mm,
I
love
think we'll
it.
be okay. I hope. I mean, I live in hope every week, every
That's,
day, every week.
without hope, you have nothing. So I do definitely, I feel that. Vince, I've really enjoyed this. Thank you so much for your time. And I hope to see you more often. It's been a really, really good chat.
No, I appreciate it, Terry. It was sometimes it's nice to get it off your chest. So it was a pleasure talking to you. I really appreciate it.
No worries, mate. Go Blues.
Yes, go Blues for sure.